like in the alley, you know, like a rat would run out and a cat would attack him, and then if a dog saw the cat, the dog would attack the cat.
We in jail, and I got the power. I'm gonna use it. He in jail, he got the power, he gonna use it. And this is the way the county's set up.
Well, I've been in the House of Correction. I was in the Rikers Island Penitentiary in New York, in the Brooklyn House of Detention, in the Hart's Island Workhouse, and in the Manhattan House of Detention. There is no comparison. The Cook County Jail is in a class by itself.
Even if you are in jail, conditions don't have to be that bad. I mean, you could meet some kind of standards. I know we're there for crime. I know I did wrong, but still.
Good evening, I'm Joel Daly. If you think that a jail is nothing more than a structure of stone and steel, designed to contain from society men and women who have broken its rules, that you will never be there and could care less about those who have been or will be incarcerated, and then return to the streets where you live and work, the following 30-minute program is a waste of your time. If you do not care to hear the shocking eyewitness details of what has been happening behind the walls of the Cook County Jail, the savagery, sadism, deviation, and discrimination that strips from a man his last vestige of self-respect, you may prefer to pass up this brief, bare look at reality for something more fanciful. If, however, you are concerned about such conditions and would like to see for yourself, judge the allegations, and consider the proposals for reform, I suggest you follow us through the big jungle. Hugh Hill will lead the way in a moment.
The Cook County Jail was opened in 1929. It was originally designed to house prisoners who were being held for trial. The cells are small. Some will hold only one prisoner. Guards cannot see the inmates because they are removed from the cells by double gates. The jail is supposed to house about 1,100. The population is always nearly 2,000. Inside the Cook County Jail are hardened criminals and desperate sex deviants. There are also first arrest prisoners, some as young as 16. The inmates are not segregated, either black from white nor by the seriousness of their crimes. While the jail is overcrowded, there is a shortage of guards, and most of them have little or no training. Small wonder then, given all those conditions, that the county jail is called a jungle. You are about to hear from two former inmates just recently discharged. Neither will be identified. I asked one of them what happens to an inmate when he arrives at the jail.
Well, he's immediately confronted by the barn boss, who is the head of the tier, and the tier clerk.
And then what happens?
He turns in his property slip, which has the amount of money which he came in with listed on his account.
He turns it into the barn boss and the tier clerk?
He turns it in specifically to the tier clerk, who shows it to the barn boss.
Now, these barn bosses and tier clerks are inmates.
That is correct, right.
They're not appointed by the county jail.
No, definitely not.
How are they chosen?
Well, they're supposedly elected by the other inmates on their tier. Sometimes these elections, though, are just mockeries. The strongest guy on the tier, the toughest guy, asserts himself. He wants to be barn boss, and the rest of them go along with it.
Were you a barn boss?
Yes.
What did you do to new inmates when they came in to see you?
Took their clothes, took their shoes, took their cigarettes, took their money, all the commissary.
How'd you get by with it?
The barn boss.
Did the barn boss do anything?
Barn boss run the county jail.
The conditions on the flats are extremely bad. They're overcrowded. You have sexual abuses going on. A new inmate arrives on the tier, and if he's a younger guy and they can see he's scared, maybe he's in jail for the first time, they'll take advantage of that and sexually assault him. Not just one individual, but 4 or 5 of them take turns at it.
You were new at one time. Did that happen to you?
I went through the same changes. That's what, see, I was a good boy when I went in. That's what happened to me.
What happened?
They took my clothes. They took I had silk underwears. They took those, my silk socks, my Stetson shoes, and also they put a few knots on my head.
And then you...
Then I figured the next time I go through and I got in good, so I did the same thing to the next man. And the next man do it to the next man. Because this is the ways and the rules of the county jail.
The guards there, in fact, even seem to cooperate with this kind of thing. They will open a door, a locked door, which is controlled by an electronic mechanism on the outside of the tier, at the request of the barn boss or the tier clerk. Say the guy they want to get at is in cell, we'll say 23. They'll yell down to the guard, knock down 23, he wants to go to the toilet, see? So the guard goes along with it and he opens up a cell door. And so there's no problem as far as getting at somebody they want to, because the guard outside, either knowingly or unknowingly, is a party to it.
What happens to the guard if he doesn't cooperate with the barn boss?
Well, as strange as it may seem, most of those guards there are scared to death of the inmates. They kowtow to them. They try to pacify them as much as they can. There are a number of instances of guards getting paint thrown at them through the bars of the tier.
Paint?
Paint, right, paint. And scalding hot water.
Are there some tough men that come in that resist?
Oh, yes. It's some, 9 out of 10. It's tough, resists, get his head busted, go down and get patched up, and come back up and get it busted again.
What do the guards say?
Hey, what happened to your head there, Chief? Fell out of bed on a Coke can. Yep, I bet you did.
Do inmates have access to narcotics in the jail?
Well, mostly what it is the medicines which are given to inmates going on sick call will be grabbed by other inmates, and they will abuse those medications. Also, you have instances of guards who do smuggle in drugs. While I have never actually seen any heroin or marijuana being smuggled into the jail, I do know that it is being brought in.
By guards?
Yes, right.
Did you ever have any narcotics?
Talking about reefers? Well, yes, I did. Phenobarbital, pain pills. I mean, by any kind of drug you name, we have it.
Liquor?
Johnny Walker Red, Fifths. And also we make hooch.
You make it in the jail?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Get some eats from the kitchen, buy about a dozen oranges, and get a large container, and put the yeast and this oranges, peeling, and the bread and sugar together, and a couple of days you got hooch.
Johnny Walker's Red?
Johnny Walker Red.
How do you get that?
Oh, the officer bring that in.
One of the guards?
Yes.
Does he bring in the reefers?
Well, yes. Two of the officers bring in reefers, I know.
2 of the officers?
Yeah.
How much does it cost for reefers?
Well, for a nickel bag, you had to pay 10,
$10?
Yes.
And how much for a bottle of liquor?
I would say for a fifth of Johnny Walker Red, about $15.
You once told me about an inmate who hit another inmate and damaged his eye with a wire brush.
That was on H4, Townsend, Charles Townsend, who has been there for a number of years awaiting the electric chair. took a wire brush and hit an inmate who was on that tier. He is the barn boss of H4.
How did he get this wire brush?
Well, they're on the tier. They're used to clean the toilets with. They're on every tier, and he hit this man across his eye, and the inmate lost his eye. He was blinded in that eye.
Every cell has, oh, I don't know how many brushes. I bet it's over 15 sticks, and that long. And
the wire brush on the end of the stick.
Right. And also sometimes they use the ringers.
What's that brush used for?
Well, it's supposed to be used for washing their washroom out, but it's mostly used for beating up inmates.
How about razor blades?
Oh, razor blades, nothing. You can get razor blades now if you want to.
Did you see a lot of beatings?
I saw more beatings than I can count.
Were you involved in some?
Some, yes.
Did you order some as the barn boss?
Yes, I did.
Why would you order a beating?
Well, say, it's like this. You have certain rules and regulations that I lay down, called the barn boss. And if you don't go by my rules, then you get jumped. That's the law.
The men who are responsible for running the Cook County Jail are Sheriff Joseph Woods and Warden Jack Johnson. Both men say they are aware of the deplorable conditions and want some changes. Is the barn boss situation, does that still exist? You still have barn bosses and tier clerks?
No, apparently we don't. I ordered it ceased. But if you take the tier bosses out, the barn bosses will come, which we did, and I understand quite a few were sent to Bridewell, and probably causing them trouble. Very shortly, you'll have the next toughest man coming up as the barn boss, unless you have sufficient personnel to see, guards, to see that they don't.
Well, is there no way to eliminate the barn boss
Certainly.
and tier clerks?
Come up with enough manpower.
I mean with the manpower you've got.
Well, you come up with a solution, Hugh, and I'd be glad to put it in. I've even thought of closed-circuit TV, but if you know the jail, you cannot see into the cells.
No.
All you can see are the day rooms, and that not too well from where the guard stands when he's there.
Authorities in the penal business are calling the Cook County Jail the worst jail in the United States.
Said it's the worst jungle. I've been in jails that are much worse when I was an FBI agent, including some federal setups.
You have?
Yes, I have. And they have just as many sexual assaults in federal prisons. Remember, these are human beings who weren't sent there because they're angels. It appears that without any exaggeration, it's a mess. I would ask for the grand jury. I ask if any of my personnel are involved in any way, I want them indicted and prosecuted and sentenced. If they've been running the jail, they've been running portions of the jail in the wrong way, then they ought to spend some time in there in a different capacity as a prisoner.
What is your reaction to all the charges of sexual deviation, brutal attacks, and violence inside the jail?
Well, I think for one thing that we ought to get the record straight that for 12 years I have been telling the public and the people of Cook County the problems of the county jail. I have projected and recommended many changes. I myself personally, before groups on television, on radio, and through the newspapers, have made recommendations as to changes that were needed, and not longer than 6 or 7 months ago, or 8 months ago at the most, I stated that if the situation continue on as it is in any institution within this community, that we would have problems such as the murders that occurred in the House of Correction and the problems, and let me say, problems that we have and the allegations.
Warden Johnson, there has been a report that an inmate in the institution was set afire and burned to death deliberately.
There is a possibility that it was done intentionally.
There is?
Yes, there's a possibility. It's being investigated by the state's attorney's office and investigated by our office at the same time.
Anybody ever killed?
Yes, the boy burned to death. Ismael Solano.
You know his name?
Yes.
What was his name?
Ismael Solano.
Ismael Solano.
Puerto Rican boy.
He burned to death?
Yes.
How?
Well, kids playing around with matches, you know, and they, you know, burn him.
What, did they pour gasoline on him?
No, they use this, you know, this form cotton.
Benzene?
No, they don't use any type fluid. It's this form cotton they have, you know, in these mattresses, and it get the burn.
Cotton from the mattress.
Yeah, and they get the burning, you know, it sticks to you. I mean, they could have saved the kid, but they had to wait to get permission to carry him to the hospital.
There is a report about a young lad who had a college education.
Yes.
Identified only as Steve.
Right.
Do you know about what happened to him?
Yes, I do. I know him very well. I remember.
Do you know his real name?
Yes, I know his real name.
What happened to him?
He went in on this particular tier. I'll even name the tier. It's H3. I was on that tier for about a week when I first went in. And his first night, he was told outright that if he did not submit to these deviant sexual acts, they'd kill him. And they said that they had already burned another guy. They had killed him by setting him on fire, which is true.
It's true?
It is true, yes, definitely.
They set
They poured benzene on him and they set him on fire, yes. And they told him that if he did not submit to these sexual acts, that they would kill him, that they had previously killed another inmate.
I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. This guy was an alcoholic. He stayed in. He was in a state of shock. You know, where he'd been drinking so much for 5 days, and they didn't give him no type medicine, nothing. On the 5th day, he died. So then everybody tried to shift weight and put on everybody else. I told them all of them was called the man dying. And so I went to the hole for 2 days.
Sheriff Woods, is there any way that you as sheriff and custodian of the Cook County Jail can convince the people who are responsible that you absolutely have to have more guards out there to control that situation?
Hugh, I think they are convinced that if the population stays as high as it is right now, 1,913 this morning, that we must either have more guards, sufficient guards to really cover the jail if we're going to stop all assaults and anything that might be going on, or we're going to have to reduce the population.
Sheriff Woods, Mr. Ogilvie has suggested that the Bridewell and the Cook County Jail be combined in one building. How do you feel about that?
It will depend on whether, from the grand jury investigation, if it's as messy now, both places, as it has been. I hope the grand jury makes recommendations to combine, to put them under one head, to have professional men running them, penologists, to make a complete merit system completely away from politics. And I couldn't care less about the jobs.
This jury, to me, this is the first one in the 12 years and some odd months that I've been here. This is the first official body that has really taken an interest in the jail, which represents our community.
As far as you're concerned, that's a good thing.
I think it's a very good thing. In fact, I think it's one of the best things that's ever happened to us, regardless of the weight of the allegations.
For nearly 40 years, the Cook County Jail has sat there at 26th and California, no one in authority except perhaps the wardens caring about what went on inside. And so the destruction of human dignity inside the institution is not surprising. What is shocking is that nothing has been done about correcting the defects. Perhaps now is the time. The December grand jury is investigating the jail. There may be criminal indictments, some even for murder. The Cook County Sheriff says he is determined to clean up conditions. The warden says he will be only too happy to see some changes made. But the grand jury, the sheriff, and the warden can do only so much with the same physical plant and the same shortage of qualified help. The ultimate solution can come only from the Illinois State Legislature. The problem has been all but ignored in the past. But if the current disclosures are sufficient to arouse the public, then the elected representatives will react. This is Hugh Hill reporting. Joel Daly will be back in a moment.
If we've learned one thing during this past half hour, it's a reaffirmation that iron bars do not a prison make. It's still a world of people, a society outside society. And if the Cook County Jail deserves the description of the big jungle, it's because the web of rules and respect on which a society is held together is gone, broken and swept away by familiar circumstances, lack of space, lack of money, and the resulting lack of adequate supervision. Officials charged with maintaining peace and security in a powder keg of raw emotions, resentment, and resistance have actually been forced to accept the tacit inner administration by the inmates themselves. And history bears witness that men who break the rules generally revert to the basic and basest rules of nature: survival of the fittest, exploitation of the weak, reliance on raw experience, and the desecration of self-respect. These scandals are not new, nor are they unique to Chicago or to this generation. Recommendations to spend more money, hire more guards, modernize the institution, and replace political appointees with qualified help have been made before. The scandal will pass, but the jail will remain. And we do not suggest our story tonight is a complete picture of the problems. But it does point out that when we take away a man's civil rights, we should protect his human rights. When we take away his freedom, we must guarantee his security. If we seek to protect society on the outside, we must ensure that it survives on the inside. Up to now, all we've done is put up a wall, surround it with guards, and create nothing more than a fire break to keep a veritable hell contained. One former inmate summed it up this way.
You know, there's a friend of mine out there by the name of, well, they call him Tony. He's the leader of the Casanova Vice Lords. And he sketched a lot on paper. So he sketched these tall buildings. Then he sketched raining down, what was raining down fire, you know. And then he said this is what he thought the county jail was made of, you know. This is his expression of the county jail.